So what do we want? I should maybe say, what do we really, really deep down want? Because often when we ask people, off the cuff, what do you want? Lots of people think, a bit more money, a better car. I like people to give me a bit more respect in the office. We have a huge list. As a human being, hierarchy of needs, Maslow. It's because humans have endless needs. And when one thing is fulfilled, the nature of the mind is to want something bigger and better and more. But we're not human beings, yeah? And this is where in the Brahma Kumaris we say, because mostly people walk around really considering themselves to be human beings. What's the nature of a soul? When it comes into this earth, a whole programming and coloring happens on top of the soul. But when the soul comes in its natural form, it is this love light. Okay. So, vice to virtue. Do you feel that yourself to be virtuous or full of vices? Or a bit of a mixture? Yeah, a mixture. But deep down, I think most of us, we still, even though we make mistakes, I think most of us still think of ourselves as pretty good people, yeah? And if we get angry or we tell a lie or we shout at somebody, we afterwards we don't feel good, yeah? And often we even say, I wasn't being myself. For that moment, I'd forgotten myself. I lost control. So we have a kind of sense that deep down we are good, but that we get hijacked. Something goes on in our inner self, which causes us to be violent. Now, I know this is quite a strong word, but if we think of violence as hurting ourselves and others, it's not so difficult to believe that we do this. I mean, even sometimes at night, do you scroll and you think, I really should go to sleep? I have to get up early in the morning. This is just making my brain dead. But do you put the phone down or do you keep going? Sometimes we just keep going, yeah? Why do we do it? And we know it's hurting ourselves, yeah? It's hurting our neck, our body, our brain, our lifestyle, our dreams, our goals. So there's something in us that sometimes mindlessly does things that hurt ourselves and others. Now, the word that we use in English is for things that harm the self and others. We use the word sin. I think in India you have the word pap. Yeah? Punya and pap. So apparently the origins of this word, sin, it comes from a Latin archery term. And I think it also, if anybody's knows advanced maths or physics or something, there's it also refers to a sort of not an angle, but what do you call that? An arc? Yeah, an arc. But in archery, it referred to aiming at a target, but missing it. And that was called sinus, to aim and miss. So really what we're doing when we sin, when we make mistakes, when we're shouting, when we get controlling, when we get upset, when we overeat, when we scroll too much, all of these sins are really just an attempt to get something we want. But we're aiming in the wrong direction, yeah? And therefore we don't only get, we don't get what we want, but usually those things cause us more trouble and end up taking us further and further away from actually what we want. So what do we want? I should maybe say, what do we really, really deep down want? Because often when we ask people, off the cuff, what do you want? Lots of people think, a bit more money, a better car. I like people to give me a bit more respect in the office. We have a huge list. As a human being, hierarchy of needs, Maslow. It's because humans have endless needs. And when one thing is fulfilled, the nature of the mind is to want something bigger and better and more. But we're not human beings, yeah? And this is where in the Brahma Kumaris we say, because mostly people walk around really considering themselves to be human beings. And not just human beings, an Indian or a New Zealand or a Hindu or a Christian human being. And then if we think we're spiritual, we might say, yes, I have a soul. I'm a human being and I have a soul. But actually it's the other way around. And you are a soul. And you're playing the role of a human being at the moment. Now, this might look like just a clever play on words. You don't have a soul, you are a soul, but it's 180 degrees difference. It's a complete turnaround. And this is often why we struggle, because we so much identify with a human being. And as a human being, you're going to identify with your role, your body, your relationships, the world of everything you can see with the senses. And that's where the endless, what do we need, what do I want, what do I need comes into it. But as a soul, or deep down, what do we really want? It's love. Yeah. Love, light. When we say light, it's not like turn on the light. It's enlightenment, but even enlightenment, what do we mean by that? It means to know the self. Yeah, everybody's looking to know themselves, but they look in the astrology, they look in the behavior of how people treat them. But to really know the self as a spiritual being. And power. Yeah, that sense of being absolutely able to choose my thoughts, my destiny, to be a powerful being. And what are we? We are love, light, and power. So really what we're looking for all the time, but we're looking outside, is we're looking for ourselves. Now, when we say self, this can be confusing because we have this good self, we have this horrible self. Which one am I exactly? So this is where it's useful to understand the idea of your innate self. Yeah. So when we say I am a soul, what's the nature of a soul? When it comes into this earth, a whole programming and coloring happens on top of the soul. But when the soul comes in its natural form, it is this love, light, and power. And this is why children, when you look at a baby, who doesn't love a baby? A newborn baby, it's like, there's such a sweetness, such a purity, because they've just arrived. They haven't started looking around and trying to get things. They're just like the closest thing to the being. Whoops, I didn't mean to go on to that slide. So that's our innate self, the soul self. It is full of love, joy, not joy from getting a new car or phone, but like a bubbling up in the soul of that sweet joy and love and power and bliss and freedom. And then what happens? We take a human body, especially when we take a human body in this world. I don't know about India, but certainly in the West, there's an awful lot of people saying, I don't want to bring child into this world. Yeah? A lot of countries, the birth rates really declining. Because people feel that, if I bring a child into this world, how quickly are they going to get colored? Or this phone gives you an access to a world which is not always that good an influence, yeah? And so in this world, we we develop things like anger. These vices are not our natural nature, but we develop them. But first what happens is we develop wrong beliefs. Yeah? So anger, we don't instantly become angry, but we slowly develop a culture and a belief system which says that people should do this and not that, or people should do what I say, or, all sorts of wrong beliefs which are like the roots of these kind of behaviors. So after a lifetime, or maybe many lifetimes, we accumulate these layers of wrong beliefs and wrong thinking, and then based on wrong beliefs and wrong thinking, we develop wrong habits, and they can be very, very deep to the point of addiction. Yeah? So what happens is that the soul still always wants to be in love. This is why we love romantic movies. And, and this is again what the society has taught us. If I said to you, I'm really looking for love, most people would say, oh, I know a nice guy that I can introduce you to. They immediately will think of a human being that can give me what I'm looking for. Yeah? And this is the problem. It's like looking for love outside is like going fishing. You see the bait. The fish sees the bait, but it doesn't see the hook. And so whenever we try to get love from anyone outside, even that person you married who said they promised to love you forever, do they always love you? Don't they sometimes find you really annoying and reject you and like look disgusted at you sometimes, and then you feel hurt because you expect love from them? So it's always going to be a disappointment. And in a way, it's good because it's life pushing you back. Often it's only pain that sends people on a spiritual journey, isn't it? Everybody loves you, everything's going well. I don't need meditation. And then usually when things crash, we intuitively know that it's a sign to come back home. You've got to, because, what you're looking for is really inside. So the search for love outside of us, it turns into attachment. Yeah, I find someone that I think is going to give me love. I invest all my time, energy, and money like a investment banker. I look around for a good investment. I put all my energy into that person, but I expect a good return. Yeah, and when I don't get it, or they give the money to another bank, the love turns into anger. Yeah, but before that, it becomes attachment. Of course it becomes attachment. If I think that you're the sole reason for me feeling loved and good, of course I'm going to be attached. And if I sense that you're moving away, I'll do anything to hold on to you. Manipulate, guilt trip, all kinds of tricks. And we're going to look at those tricks tonight, because that's where our intention to have love in our lives, when it becomes attachment, and then we start to get desperate, then our behavior becomes not actually loving. It becomes all kinds of subtle violence. Yeah, we never think of that. We don't think of ourselves as being violent towards others. But in many little ways we are. Okay, so the search for light or enlightenment is really the search to know, who am I? And when you don't have the true identity, the permanent identity, then what you're going to replace it with is ego. So ego is, could I have this microphone? I'm just feeling heavier as I'm going along. So that desperate need to know who I am, it will turn, when it's not from inside, outside into ego. And then I'll be looking for myself in how many likes I get and how people look at me. Ego has many, many many forms which we'll look at. And the search for power, again, when we don't feel powerful in ourselves, then what do? We try to control the outside, isn't it? Because we feel vulnerable if we can't control. Okay, Om Shanti. I think we've just want to turn. Om Shanti. Okay. Is that working well? Okay, yeah. So the search for power, when I don't find it inside, I try to have power over others. And then I become bullying and domineering and bossy and all those kind of things. But what's kind of interesting is that I've noticed in life that according to different personalities, if someone has a powerful personality, someone who you sense can get things done, who's got energy, determination, wants to make a difference in the world, these are the people most likely, if they don't watch it, can come bossy, domineering, controlling, yeah? It's sort of like whatever's your greatest strength in life is the thing that you're most likely to overuse and then misuse. And the same with people who are really loving, warm, mothering, nurturing, loving. They also have the tendency to become the most attached. Yeah, and we think, oh, that's sweet, but attachment's not sweet. That becomes the mother that always complaining, doesn't like her daughter-in-law because she's too attached to her son and no one's ever good enough for him. And then she starts to be mean to the mother-in-law and to the daughter-in-law, and it becomes a very unhappy situation. Yeah, and then people who have who know themselves, have a lot of self-confidence, that can also go over the other way too. And then that becomes, I'm not just confident, I'm the greatest, could become a bit narcissistic. So they say in psychology and a lot of spiritual books and things that there's only two emotions. If you bring it all down to the basics, it's either love or fear. Yeah? And if we're connected to the soul, if we identify being a soul, then we're tapped into love. It's the primary essence of the soul. But when we forget that, and now we're lost in a world that's constantly moving and changing like a matrix, of course we're going to be fearful. You might not feel fearful. You might not get up out of your bed in the morning and go, oh, I'm afraid to face the day. But it comes up in all little insecurities. Yeah, insecurity that makes you worry, that makes you accumulate and hold on to things and nervous and has many side effects. So we're either in our true self or we're in our false self. And honestly, even after meditating for years and years, I still feel it's my false self dominating, So you can't just do this theoretically. You have to seriously, we know this, India knows this from all the saints. They didn't become enlightened in one day, did they? They meditated on the self as the only thing. The only thing that they believed was important was to know the self above anything else. So you're not just going to know your true self by taking a course at the Brahma Kumaris and be reminded that you're a soul. It's something that has to consume you. And I think one of the things that help us to come back to making this more serious is, again, the suffering. The more we go away from the soul, the more we suffer. And even if it's the suffering of an ordinary life, and you sense that you weren't here to have a boring, ordinary life, just running after security, even that silent, quiet suffering of that. So love or fear, another way of looking at it, you're either a devta, so I understand the word devta, means the one who gives. Yeah? And the one opposite is levta, which is all human beings with the hierarchy of needs. We're always looking to get. Yeah? And that's why we say deities are not human beings. Yeah? So how does one become a deity? So I don't think in this world, in this, with this bodies, with this energy of this world, that there can be a deity born, a devta born. But how can we prepare such a world? You know, we always say it has to be self-transformation, and then the world changes. You know, I change, then the world. I think even Gandhi said that, no? Be the change that you want to see in the world. So how do you become a devta? You know, it would look ridiculous to put on the jewelry on these characters of ours, you know, in this Kali Yuga world, to try and pretend to be deities. But how does a soul become a deity or a devta? By giving. And how do you become a soul who gives instead of takes? By coming back to the self. This is where all the treasures, all the power, all the love, all the wisdom is in the soul. So that has to become our really primary identity. And how we can do that on a daily basis is by choosing the quality of my thoughts. You know, that's something that we have a compass in our mind. When you think and the thoughts create feelings or emotions, do those thoughts feel good? In other words, are they like nourishing, or do they feel like junk? That's why I had the picture of the junk food and the healthy food. And if we come, whoops, wrong direction. If we come back to here, how do we know we're in the center? Because when you're close to the self, you feel good. It's really simple. You know, you can feel that nice, calm feeling. You have good feelings to others. You feel like a sweetness inside instead of a bitterness. You know, so really our feelings are the simple compass, whether I'm really connected to the self or whether I'm lost in the outside circles, in the accumulated rubbish. Yeah, so are my thoughts rubbish like junk food, or are they healthy and nourishing? But the thing about junk food is, if you've been eating junk food for a while, yeah, too much salt, too much sugar, too much fried food, and then someone says, here, have a salad. Salads are not that popular in India, actually, are they? Yeah, maybe a bit trendy now, but generally it's not part of the Indian food, yeah? So you've been eating lots of fried food and someone says, have a salad. How do you feel about that? You're like, oh no, it's too boring, yeah? But if you start to get used to eating lots of salad and fruit, you know, maybe you're doing a detox and like, it's hard in the beginning, but you make yourself eat that food for a while. And then someone says, here, have this, I don't know, shrikand. That's like the sweetest dessert I can think of. Yeah? After you've been eating lots of fruit and then someone says, here, have shrikand, what do you think? It's too sweet. Yeah? It tastes a little bit too sweet. Or maybe if you eat Coke, you're like, I can feel it's artificial. This is really the difference. Where the soul conscious feelings are very nourishing, very naturally sweet, make you feel good. But in the beginning, when you start to meditate, it can feel a bit boring because we're addicted to drama, you know? Competitive, worrying about things, racing around, being very action-oriented. It becomes like an addiction. Yeah, that's why if we say, come to a lecture, people come. But if we say, come to an hour meditation program, oh no, I've got something to do. Because we're a little bit afraid of it. You know, we feel like, oh, it's going to be boring. And this is why you have to get a taste for those soul-conscious inner feelings. Yeah, do it bit by bit, drip by drip. Just get used to sitting for a moment and doing nothing And just like turning your mind inside and like just calming down and getting used to how nice it actually feels not to be overstimulated by the phone, the world, the people, and just get used to what might feel like boredom, but eventually becomes like that salad. If you eat salads for a long time, you start to go, wow, that tomato's really sweet, and that carrot, it's really nice. Whereas raw carrot, if you're not used to it, yeah? Like, give me the laddu, give me the pakora. So we have to wean ourselves onto a soul food in a diet. Yes. Exactly. Actually, I once ate only raw food for like 8 months, and one another time for a whole year. And then my brother, he gave me a piece of fudge, and it was like special fudge. Like, fudge is even more sweet than chocolate. And I felt like my whole face went red and tingled, and I felt like, wow, it was really very strong. But if you eat it all the time, no worries, So we get used to feeling bad and angry and annoyed and irritated and impatient. Yeah, we get used to junk food, fatty food. Yeah, but it doesn't mean it's good for us. Okay, so let's look at these three elements. Firstly, at power. Actually, I thought love was first, but let's look at power. So, power can sound like quite abstract. I'm a powerful soul. But if you feel your own power, and especially the power to choose, that in a moment, as soon as you realize you're eating junk food, like even in the physical world, yeah, you actually have the power within you to choose one over the other, yeah? Even if you're in the middle of eating it and you suddenly go, actually, this is not good. You can, in theory, sometimes in practice, not as easy, but in theory, you can literally say no and change what you eat. Same as the thoughts and just as easy. Just as easy. Yeah, but you have to have that confidence you can do it. And also sometimes thoughts gain momentum. Yeah, usually they do. You don't just have one angry thought, you have a whole story of thoughts, yeah? But even then, you still have the ability to practice putting on the brakes. But it takes practice. When you do your driver's license, you have to do this. I don't know in India, but when I took the driver's test, they do a test where the trainer or the inspector, he suddenly shouts, "Stop!" And you've got to immediately put your foot heavy on the brake, yeah? So that's what we need to remind ourselves. We do have a brake. We do have it within our consciousness, the ability to completely change a thought. But it does take sometimes practice or just remembering that you don't have to eat the junk food. You don't have to stay angry. You can actually let it go. So signs that you're powerful, and this is what you're going to have in your life if you meditate and gain back your soul power, is determination. Not just saying you're going to do something and then like half an hour later you've changed your mind and you give up, yeah? Then we feel weak. So the soul power gives us determination, enthusiasm, which is like energy to do something, confidence, encouraging. Yeah, courage comes from power. Empowering others. If we feel powerful in ourselves, we want others to feel powerful, yeah? So we give them power with encouraging words, with delegating responsibility, giving people an opportunity. If we're feeling weak and vulnerable, we don't empower people. And you see this in the workplace, yeah? Someone who pretends to be powerful, but inside they're weak and insecure, they never give power to other people. They always hold on to things. Self-discipline, Sorry, my eyes are quite bad without glasses. Responsibility, which again, ability to respond rather than react. Yeah, so this is a power. To respond, to be decisive, and to be assertive. So these are all qualities that we associate with powerful people. But what happens when we're weak, and where does weakness come from? It comes from not controlling the self, but trying to control outside. And this then becomes angry because you can't. You literally cannot control the outside, because what's the nature of the world? The basic nature of the world outside of you. Change, yeah. It's changeable, unpredictable, and uncontrollable. Yeah, even your kids, can you control your children? Have you tried? It might work if you tie them down and lock the door, but as soon as they get a chance, in fact, the more you try to control, the more they're going to rebel. Yeah? Now, can you influence them? Influence, not control, but you can influence. Yeah? And how do you influence them? What's the main way that parents influence their children?
By giving tablet.
That sounds like a method of control. A little bit.
By walking the path we wanted.
Exactly. You influence through example. I remember I was doing a course in it was Malaysia, and there was a guy on the course, Kuwaiti, and he was obviously like overweight. Not just a little chubby, but like really quite obese. And in one of the breaks, he came up to me and he said, "Oh, I want to talk to you about an issue." And he said, "I'm really worried about my daughter. She's only 5, but already she's overeating and putting on weight, and it's going to become an issue." And I was like, "Oh my God, what do I say? What do I say here?" And I was like, okay, tactfully, well, like sometimes in the environment, their children get influenced. And he's like, no, I know what you're trying to say. But he said, I never eat in front of her. I never eat in front of her. So she doesn't know I overeat. Of course she knows. Like, it's in the whole atmosphere, in your energy, even if she doesn't see you, she's not stupid, And so that's the main way we influence others, is when we have control. Yeah? And when we don't have self-control and we're a bad influence, and then they follow us, and then we get angry at them, actually we're also angry at ourselves, because we know we have to be the example, but we're not, and then we're frustrated because why can't I do that? Yeah? So one of the main things, we're angry with ourselves. So anger becomes control. It becomes then frustration. It becomes bossiness. It becomes threats. Yeah? Now that you might think, oh, that's a bit dramatic. But we infer things, we get moody, we show that we're not happy, and we show that if you do it again, I'm going to be even more unhappy. So people know that we're indirectly what's going to come if they do something. Yeah? Impatient, blaming others, sarcastic, that's being angry and mean, but with a smile on your face, so that you can say, I didn't mean it, can't you take a joke? But what I've just done is like stick a little thorn in their heart, yeah? And taunting or making fun of people. So these are all the ways that when we're not strong and we're like trying to be powerful outside, then we become angry, and then this is what happens. So what happens? I feel vulnerable because I can't really control anybody or anything. So instead, I try to force to control others. And then that gives me a sense of power. Actually, wait. I think so I try to get a false sense of power, basically, through all those things. So what does it sound like? Yeah, so words like control and manipulation, you might feel like, no, I don't do that. But if you listen to these phrases, you realize that actually sometimes the motive behind these phrases is really control and anger. Yeah. So haven't you finished it yet? So showing impatience, or is that the best you can do? Yeah, a little bit sarcasm or taunting, or you're so stupid, or you might not be that rude, but you might say, oh, are you always so clumsy? You might try and soften it a little bit, but in a sense you're insulting. That's typical of you. Yeah, I was at a dinner party once. It was a BK gathering in New York, and it was all teachers from all over the world. And I was at the table, like little decorated tables, and I tipped my water over. And the sister next to me, who knew me very well, she said, "Oh, that's so typical of you." And I was like a stab in the heart. I was like, "What? You think I'm clumsy?" Now I've accepted it, that I have a clumsy side. But at that time, it was like a shock, when someone says something like that. It's typical of you. Or you should, you must, you have to. Do you use that language sometimes with people? Or with yourself? How often do you tell yourself, I really have to stop doing this? Yeah, I mustn't do this. Does it work? Or does it make you just rebel more? Yeah, because again, it's like we're angry at ourselves for doing something, and then we think that we'll change it by bossing ourselves around, by telling ourselves off, by getting angry with ourselves. I shouldn't do that. I mustn't do that. I know better than that. It actually doesn't work. Yeah? Don't try it. I mean, I know you've tried it. We all try it. It doesn't work. Yeah? You can only change out of love. And so, what did you do? It's all your fault. So blame. If you don't do this, I will. Yeah, and again, it can be done indirectly, but in a sense, we're trying to get people to do things by withdrawing love or being moody. Now, if you cared, you would. If you loved me, you would do this. If someone said that to you, do you like it? No, it's force, it's blackmail, it's guilt. Yeah, it's subtle violence. It makes people eventually hate each other. If you don't do this, I'll never talk to you again. So anything that looks like moodiness, silence, withdraw, punishing each other, and ultimate, I hate you. Have you ever said that to someone in anger? Usually you go, I don't mean it. But sometimes in anger, that you feel like that. But is it that you really hate them? Usually you say it to the people that actually are the closest to you. But it's at that moment you're so frustrated at what they're doing and what they're not giving you what you want, and everything's going wrong, and you feel so vulnerable. So all of that hate is really coming out of a sense of vulnerable, out of control. And that's good to remember when you see other people being angry. Yeah, not just yourself, but when you see other people behaving like this, remember how weak they must be feeling, how vulnerable they must be feeling. And I think it gives us more ability to be patient with that. So what's the remedy for this anger? It's not an instant remedy. Well, it could be instant, but in my experience, it takes time to really go deep into this thought, I am powerful, so that it's not just a thought. It's like a truth, that you know it. And then if you know it, you feel it, and you operate from that. And when you feel powerful, imagine walking through the world feeling so powerful that nobody can hurt you. Like, how free would you feel? Now, in the physical world, some people do walk around like that. Don't you know who my father is? They have power based on position. on protection of guards, of the bank account, of all these things. But even then, do they really feel, is it real power? No, it's all based on these things. Inside, they may feel quite vulnerable. But imagine if you felt spiritually powerful and you understood that actually no one can hurt you because the soul can't be hurt. I mean, that's even in the Gita, isn't it? Atma can't be burnt, can't be, destroyed in any way. They're talking about us. Atma is not some abstract thing over there. We are Atma, and Atma can't be hurt. So walking around with that feeling of being so powerful, safe, secure, that nothing can ever hurt the soul. I have a little interest in listening to experiences of people who have died and come back. They're absolutely fascinating. And most of them actually sound, if you've ever done a Raja Yoga course and you remember the meditation, suddenly I'm a light, I leave the body, I fly above, I look down at the body, now I'm going through space, and now I come into this world of light. They keep talking about it. It's exactly what they experience. But there's a lot of other things they see too. Sometimes they have a life review. And the main thing they come back from with the life review is saying that your life seems to be measured in how much love you give to others. Yeah, and when they say love, a kind word. And they're shown the impact of that kind word. An uplifting word or help, and how that person went home and maybe didn't kill themselves, or maybe they said something nice to their wife and the wife was happy, and how but also they're often shown the effect of a judgment, not even an action, even a thought. We're energetic beings, and we pick up if someone's judging us, and we suddenly feel insecure. So you're shown when you die the impact of all those little violence and kindnesses. Yeah. But this particular one that I listened to, he had a vision, and it was flashing images of people being tortured and losing their arms and legs, and wars, and like the most horrific thing that a human being could ever go to. But then he saw, and he understood the meaning of the vision. He saw the soul come out of it. And that actually, no matter what happens to the physical being, the body, the situation that you're in, you will actually always go back to the original Atma. It's all wiped clean. At some point, you won't even now, do you remember what's happened in another lifetime? No, if you believe in other lifetimes, which most of us do. Terrible things might have happened. Absolutely horrible things could have happened. But do you remember it? No. It's all wiped clean. Another thing that can help us not to be angry is to remember everybody's playing their part, in this drama. All the politicians, all the annoying people, whoever they are, they're playing their part. Also reminding that you don't need anything. You have everything. So therefore you don't need to be a beggar and therefore disappointed and expecting. And that you can be the master of yourself. Yeah, the soul is the master of the body, just like you're the driver of your car. Yeah, but the thing is, we don't exercise control. Yeah, we're drunk driving ourselves. It's a bit like that. So this is the kind of affirmation to get into our soul, that when I'm secure in my own power, then I let others be. I let others shine, and that's what we call empowerment. It's the opposite of control, is empowerment. All right, let's look at love, something that is so important. So when we feel love, when we are in a state of love, which I strongly believe you can't do if you don't meditate. some kind of meditation. It's the doorway to access the love. Yeah. And when you're accessing it, then it's more natural to be accepting, forgiving, compassionate, kind, sharing, appreciative, respecting, empathetic, and what's the last one? Patient. Yeah. So those are natural expressions of love in the human relation. But what happens when we look for love outside and we get attached? Yeah, so now you're my source of love. So then what happens? I start to get jealous because you're giving love to them and not to me. So I feel like there's only enough to go around. Yeah, if you start distributing that love, I'm not going to get what I need. So I feel jealous. And isn't it a horrible feeling? Jealousy? Yeah, it makes us treat each other very horribly in order to get love. And of course, it always goes the other way. Yeah? Competition. Yeah. Competition. I have to compete for love and turn myself into someone I'm not. That's also what happens is we distort ourselves, to get that love. We become what the other person, what we think they want. Possessiveness, you're mine, worrying, dependency, I can't be happy without you. Obsessing, it can even go into obsession. Neediness, manipulation, lonely, when I don't have your love, I feel lonely, even though there's all this love inside. I'm just so stuck on the thought of getting love and expectations. Okay, so what happens when we don't feel love is we get love from others through the energy of attention. Yeah, this is what people are hungry for. Yeah, so if we don't get love from people, we go online and we're looking for love and attention. And that we believe we need people's attention to feel love. And then what happens? Fear of not getting that attention, then it leads to all these behaviors. And if I don't get the attention, then I drop. I feel lonely and depressed and obsessed and all those negative things. And when I get a little bit of energy, of attention, and then I get excited, and when I lose it, I get depressed. So this is why people, when they're in love, are on a roller coaster. Because I've got it. No, I've lost it. No, I've got it. I've lost it. Yeah. And we call that butterfly of being in love and excitement. It's not. It's all fear. It's all nervousness. It's all based on I need to get it, but maybe I won't get it. Yeah. And this is the state of the world. And then what do? Sorry, where am I? This is going so quick. I do actually need glasses. Okay, so this is the language of attachment. I love you. Now, this might be a little bit radical because, it seems like such an innocent thing to say, And sometimes it is, I'm not saying you should never say I love you, but a lot of the time, or if you're really on a spiritual path, you'll notice that highly spiritual people usually don't use that phrase, I love you, because that's a whole mystical concept to begin with. Which I are we talking about? Which love are we talking about? And who are you? Yeah? So often when we say, I love you, it's my ego is attached to the idea of you, basically. And then it can be filled with manipulation. If I say I love you, now you feel obliged that you should say it back, yeah? So am I saying it innocently, or am I like fishing for it to get it back? So in some ways that I love you can be very manipulative, very like full of like a fish hook. Yeah, I'm fishing and then I hook you in with that phrase. I love you, but I don't love you, you and you. So from a spiritual perspective, in a soul consciousness, we love everyone. Now, we don't necessarily go around saying, I love all of you. Personally, I love you, you, but it's a feeling of love. And that can come across as just warmth and openness and acceptance and sharing or caring. Love has so many forms, but we're so used to associating love with romantic love and exclusive love and getting love. Yeah, it's become the most distorted word in the world, I think. I care about you. Again, it's okay to care for people, but often when we say, I care about you, then the other person is like, oh no. If people say that to me, I feel like it's full of strings attached. I care about you, therefore you should do what I say. Or not do this because I'm worried about you. In some ways, I'm trying to get you to do something that I prefer. I worry about you, fearful. I have a friend, if I say, oh, be careful, he always say, no, never say that. Like, he sends people out the door with, go take risks, Because often we send people out the door full of our worry energy. Be careful, watch where you're going, don't talk to strangers. We send people out the door full of all our fear because of our attachment. If I lose you, I'll have no source of love. You're my drug and I need you to be safe. Instead of saying, go be free, enjoy your life. That's the ultimate freedom, isn't it? Ultimate love. I need you, red flag. Yeah? I think we all know that one. Sometimes it's like you might genuinely need someone to do something. But even then, it's still like God who sends them. That's a better attitude to have. Otherwise, I need you can be very manipulative, very heavy thing to say to someone. And I'm scared of losing you. So again, this is all based on getting love from the role that you play. And what's really interesting is one of the things that all these people who have died and come back, they often describe that when we all leave the body, that our form is a point of light, which is what the BKs always have. They describe it, a point of light. Often they say there's like an orb around it. And they say that we're all connected, like a constellation or like a web. And that when you look at, then they look at each other, like in the vision, without physical eyes, they still see all these lights. And they say it feels like home, it feels like family. And sometimes when they look at a particular light, they know it's someone they know. Like they go, oh, that's, granddad in that point of light. But even if they don't recognize the role that person played from their life, they say, we still know each other. Now that's an interesting thought, isn't it? That all of us are going to meet on the other side as part of this web, beautiful web of light in which we all know each other and each other as our true selves. And they also say that even though we're points of light and orbs of light, each one's unique. It has its own like energy pattern. So it's not that being a point of light is like you're a light bulb, you're a light bulb, you're a light bulb. No, it's like you're a unique world. And each one's a unique world. But that world is in the form of a point of consciousness. Because everything, all of your uniqueness is in your consciousness, isn't it? It's not in your dress and your history and your job description. It's in your consciousness. And so when we leave, that's what we're left with. We're all consciousness and we're all love and we all love each other, So even your enemy, I think that's in the Gita, in the Mahabharata too, like the ones who are fighting, when they go to the other side, the cousins and the Kauravas and the Pandavas, they're all eating together. You know, it's like a symbol that on the other side, there is no enemies. If you loved me, again, that tends to follow with some control manipulation. You're mine. When you're in love, isn't that the sweetest word she's ever heard? Yeah? You're mine, my precious, my only. But then it can turn into, possessiveness, identification. So often what we say when we say, I love you, often unconsciously, it's not really you, the being. It's you and your nice job, which makes me secure. It's you and your body, which I like the look of. It's you and your good family. It's, it's a package. Yeah, we without realizing, often we get attached to the package. And then, of course, when the package is not there, somehow the love gets affected. There's an awful thing in the West, and all the women are looking for, they call it the 3 6s, 666. He should have an income of 6 figures, he should have a 6-pack, and he should be 6 foot tall. Yeah? That actually eliminates like 95% of all mankind. Yeah? And yet everybody's looking for that package. No wonder people feel empty. They're not looking for love, they're looking for a whole lot of benefits. And there's no one like you. That's true. But often when people say it, there's no one like you, it's again, they're trying to butter you up and make you attached to them. Because that's what happens, isn't it? When people stroke your ego, you feel good about them, and then you want to be around them, and then you prefer them to the one that points out your weakness. And then, again, we're loving this and not loving that. And I can't live without you. So all of these things which, look like love. In fact, most love songs, that could be the lyrics. Yeah? This very famous song, I can't live if living is without you. I can't call it a day. And it sounds very romantic, but actually from a psychological point, it's complete dependency followed by depression and all sorts of issues. So we need to write new love songs. I love you even if you leave your body and you're in another dimension. I love the soul. There's nothing to lose. So this is the remedy for this fear of losing love, is that we all belong to God eternally, and we're all connected eternally. You never lose anyone. And even I strongly believe, after listening to hundreds and hundreds of people who have died and come back, I do feel that whoever you've loved, particularly in this lifetime, you will get to see them again. In a form, probably in the form that you recognize, or even as a soul, but you know who they are. And you'll say, awesome to see you again. Yeah? I am loved unconditionally by God. Unconditionally. That means the biggest sinners. Yeah? No matter like how wretched you feel you are or think you are, God is just loving you to bits, just like you would love your child even if they're naughty. Yeah? Everyone belongs to me. We're all connected. This is a good one. I'm a complete being, not half a being. This is, I think, again, something that we've been brainwashed. In fact, I saw a little meme yesterday. It said, don't look for your soulmate, look for your soul, mate. Yeah? I am full of love. I am love. I don't own anyone, and I can't lose anyone. Everyone belongs to me. And I remember once I shared this recently here, but I was particularly feeling this vibe. I was in that, I'm a universal being, I love everyone, and it was really strong, and I was in the plane. Sometimes when you're in a plane, you have that sense like you're above the world and, meditating. And as I was getting off the plane, there was this Mataji, And she was from Turkey. I think the flight was coming from Istanbul to Dubai. So she was probably going to meet her son. But she was dressed like a villager, like the baggy pants and like very old-fashioned village clothes. And as I was getting off, she came up to me and gave me a big hug. And I wasn't surprised that much, because I was feeling that vibe. Like I just felt very loving. And because she's so innocent, she must have picked it up. And we shared that beautiful moment, like getting off a plane, a random stranger, and a really close hug, And I think that's the love that's available, to have loving connections with everyone. And the last one. Okay, so light. If we're enlightened, which means if we are self-aware, we know that we're a soul, then the consequence is wisdom, humility, integrity, honesty, self-awareness, truth, clarity, intuition, and observant. Yes, I'm not looking through the filters. I can see everything clearly. So that's what like truth in the life looks like. In the soul conscious, it means I know I'm a soul. But in reality, that comes across as integrity and truth and honesty. But when we don't have that, what we do is we build up a fake self to show the world. Yeah? So we build our identity on, I'm the best, best looking, I'm the most intelligent, I come from the best family, I'm the highest position in this company, whatever it is. We look for some kind of way of thinking that we're good instead of knowing we are good as a soul. And this leads to then arrogance, boasting. Yeah, maybe not too obvious, but just letting people know it was actually my idea, not his idea. And like maybe how many important people that you happen to know, so you try and do it in a little indirect way, but essentially you want people to know how good you are, yeah? How special you are. Comparing yourself to others, yeah, particularly what they're not good at and what you're good at, so you can get a boost. Vanity. Condescending, looking down on people. Thank you. Feeling insecure. Confused. Of course, you don't know yourself. So one minute you feel great about yourself because people have just told you that you're the best manager in the company. And then suddenly when your child is going, you're a horrible dad, I hate you. Now you're like feeling miserable because your identity keeps changing. According to the different role and different feedback, it's like you're looking for yourself in a river. You must have heard this analogy before. And that you can never see yourself. It's always changing. So that's what ego does. It gets us very confused about who we are. And sometimes we feel we're great, and sometimes we feel we're hopeless. Judgmental. And gossiping. Is that gossiping? No, it's competing. But gossip should be there because that's what we do when we want an ego boost, yeah? We get together with our friends and we go, oh my God, you wouldn't believe what so-and-so's doing, yeah? And indirectly, we would never do that. We're better than that. So we get a little boost. We feel a little better about ourselves. So when we don't have self-awareness, which brings self-everything, then we get a buzz, ego buzz from, all these showing off and pretending and looking down at people. So the language of ego, I would never do that. How many of you have ever said that and then done it? Yeah? Then comes humility in life. Yeah? People who say, I would never. All right. Pride becomes before. You know the saying? Pride comes before the fall. Yeah, so people who have a lot of ego that my standards are like this and I'm very moral and I never do anything like that. Just wait. My nationality, religion, team, etc., is the best. So comparing yourself to others is ego. My belief, idea, values are right. So this stubbornness, and this can also turn into arguing and anger, you know. And this is where it's good to understand how identity works. Because so there's my idea or belief or opinion or whatever, yeah? It's there, it's an idea. But what happens when it becomes my idea? Yeah, my precious, my precious idea. And then it's not just my idea, but I'm the clever one. I'm the one who can see how things need to go. And there's a whole story, a whole complicated mess behind my idea. And now I'm presenting my idea in the work meeting. And then what happens? Someone points out how stupid it is, or never going to go with it, or like you haven't thought it through properly. And what happens inside you? You start to feel a little heart race increasing, a little muscle tension, and then maybe your voice, like you don't mean to, but maybe your voice just gets a little bit more like emphatic about your point of view. And then now they're getting even more argumentative back, and now you're shouting. Now, and you look crazy because it's just an idea. But what happens when you think it's my idea? You can't separate yourself. So if the idea's under threat, it feels like you're under threat. So your body is acting as if there's an attack going on. And that's why we get so irrationally emotional about stupid things like your idea or your opinion, or like, I like this politician and you don't like them and now we're going to fight about it. And it's illogical, but emotions are not logical. Yeah. I do so much, bossing, or like thinking that you're good because you do a lot, and then thinking that people don't do as much as you are not as good as you. This is ego. Vanity. Huh?
Managing everything.
Control freak. Micromanaging.
I do so much for
Huh?
managing everything.
Yeah, I have to manage everything, everyone, and you're the reason for the problem, blaming. You're too young to understand, condescending, or you're not educated enough to know anything, or you just read that on YouTube and, you don't, therefore it's not true. I'm gorgeous. Did you hear what they did? Gossiping, or you're useless, or anything that dismisses people. So this is the language of the ego. So what's the remedy? Real spiritual self-respect. If you don't have it, you will have ego. You're going to have one or the other, yeah? So I'm not the body, I'm the soul, and I, the soul, am like God. The soul is like God. If you really get that in your head, you won't be showing off about your ideas, That will feel like nothing. I am full of divine qualities. I am the being of love, light, and power. I know who I am, and divinity is my true nature. And of course, it is just words, but if we meditate on them and really understand them, and this is what this study is about, imbibing it so that it's real. And if it is, and it won't just happen overnight, but as it grows, the ego goes down. Yeah? And as the ego goes down, the wisdom comes out. As the anger goes down, self-control comes up. And when the attachment goes down, real love starts to come. And then your life is so much happier. Relationships are so much better. So this is the choice, daily choice. Yeah? Am I going to act from the ego or from the soul? From the fear or the love? Am I looking? Don't forget, like in my human consciousness, looking for something? Or as a soul? No, I can give, actually. I can be a devta. Maybe not looking like one, but but from the soul point, we can be like a devta. And basically, for me, the simplest way to make spiritual effort, does it feel good, what I'm thinking and feeling, or does it feel painful? Because I don't think junk food feels good to eat. Like in the little bit of pleasure and then you feel sick, yeah? So same with anger, jealousy, vanity, comparing, gossiping. They may give you a little bit of pleasure followed by a feeling of being sick. Yeah, not a good feeling. So that's the simple thing to remember, that you actually have the power to choose what you're going to think. But your thoughts ultimately are coming from what you believe. And your beliefs have been conditioned by a long influence of society and eons of culture, of a body-conscious world, of a Kali Yugi state of affairs. And so that's why if you're really serious about spiritual development, it can't just be a book once in a while, like, yeah, Osho once in a while. It has to be daily meditation and daily study of something that makes these ideas go deeper and deeper. And also science is now supporting these ideas, like it's used to be a big separation, like spirituality and science, but now the scientists are also saying, thoughts affect everything, and they can measure frequencies. And they also know that we're interconnected. And if one person changes, how much it influences the whole. Acha. Should we finish with a little bit of meditation, or is there anything you'd like to ask or comment, or I'm not sure. Possibly your speakers leave more time for discussion. No guidance, so I'll just go ahead and finish with a little bit of meditation, yeah? So sometimes when we hear the word meditation, it's like, oh no, she's making us eat salad. So just treat it like we're going to do a little visualization. Yeah, we're going to imagine something, play with thoughts, and that can make it a little bit easier. So I want you to imagine, and the background can be this like a golden sky. And to make it look like a sky, you can give it dimension and maybe some golden clouds so that you really feel like your mind is filled with that beautiful golden sky space. And then I want you to just visualize a little star. Like when you look into the night sky, you can see that very bright star, or maybe it's Venus, but looks like a sparkling light in the sky. So that's what you're imagining now. You're seeing a star. Twinkling, sparkling, and you're moving closer to it. And as you move closer, you can see it like really spreading light around itself, like a glowing orb with rays of light coming out. And of course, this is not a star. This is actually what a soul looks like when it leaves its costume. But you're looking at a soul in its natural habitat, in a dimension of silence, in a holy place, which has never been touched by anything of this earth. So very pure, very silent dimension. And that soul in its natural form is just radiating love, like waves of love, like the sweetest pure energy of good feelings is coming from this light. And this is a being here. It's not a light, it's a being. The most precious thing in the universe is a being. And that being is full of love, full of light, powerful. Peaceful. It has zero worries about anything related to the human world, because at the moment it's not even aware that a world exists. It doesn't know anything about bodies, time, planets, to-do lists. It's just pure beingness. Nowhere to go, no need to even think. It's completely at home with itself. There's nothing to fear, nothing to gain, nothing to lose. It's ultimately complete. And in that completeness, there's a perfect stillness. And that stillness is not dead. That stillness is vibrant and alive and playful and joyful. And then now imagine that whole sky is full of other star-like beings, like a whole family of them. And they all know each other and love each other and are connected eternally in this dimension far beyond the planet. And one day they will come down into this dimension, into bodies, because they like to play in this stage, in this drama. It's something novel and different to do. But for now, they're just so happy to be back home. And just imagine that this is all of us here. You know, we have these bodies in the seats like costumes in a drama. But the ultimate truth is that these are just temporary. We come from the eternal home of silence, where we exist without bodies in the pure form of an Atma, shining and pure like God. And that is what we always return to. No matter what has happened in our lives, no matter how good we think we're acting in the play or how bad we think we're acting, it's just a performance. Ultimately, it's not the truth of who we are, but this dimension is actually the truth of who we really are. Beings of light, beings of love, and beings of power. Om Shanti. So thank you all very much for coming and sharing. And, thank you.
Yes.
So this week we had a wonderful, wonderful retreat, which everybody who attended said, even ones who are like serious meditators, they said it was like a new life, like a boost for them. And we're doing these retreats here in Hyderabad, in this beautiful place, around every 6 months. So, stay in touch and find out when the next one is, because it's a golden opportunity, to come and be in this atmosphere and really go deep into this. Because it's not enough just to come for lectures if you really want to transform. And don't worry about I don't want to become a BK. It's not about becoming a BK. It's about knowing yourself as a soul. That's why we're here, yeah? So stay connected with the news, however they deliver the news here. Om Shanti.
Thank you so much, sister. So once again, we would thank Sister Jillian with a huge round of applause. And we are truly blessed that we got a chance to listen to this insightful talk. And sister, your talk was really the music to our ears. We do not, it's a divine music to our ears. We do not wanted it to end. Yes? Yes. So, what did we learn today? I think we understood in depth that how we hurt ourselves, and also we distort ourselves with the different energies of attachment, ego, and you also learned about the language. Yes, so from today, are you going to change your language to your true self? Yes. So, and a lot more takeaways from the talk. So we would like to thank sister again for the wonderful meditation as well. The commentary, it was really peaceful to all of us. Yeah. Yes, the one that you were reciting, the meditation. That was Sister Shivani. Yes, yeah. That was in Hindi. Yeah. At the start of the meditation and also toward the end of the meditation, the sister that provided us. And we will again meet next week with a beautiful special edition of Ganesh Chaturthi. Yes, here in the evening talk at Shanti Sarovar. And you have a prasadam when you leave, so you can walk silently. If you have any questions, you can speak to Sister Jillian. Thank you. Retreat program. Okay. Maybe sister can take the, yeah.
So the retreat that we had, so the main facilitator is a doctor from UK, Prashant. So he's written many books, and so he's developed this program called Sanjeevani, and it's very powerful for helping out improve our meditation. I mean, it's based on Raja Yoga, but he's really worked over decades to come up with some really useful, like technology. He's very like logically minded, some really useful analogies, examples, ways of looking at it that really help you to stop being like a human trying to be spiritual and really feel like being a spirit is really easy and natural, you know, and everybody in the course felt that, you know. And then I'm doing the afternoon sessions, and sometimes we're doing like discussions in groups to have a bit of variety. And in the evening we have meditation. In the morning we have like a walk. And this time it was 7 full days, but we might discuss it. If we do it again, we might make it 5 days, because a lot of people registered but didn't come, and we think maybe that was the factor, that a week is quite hard to commit to. We haven't fixed the next one, but I'm hearing whispers of around January, February that we might come back and do another retreat. So put yourself on the mailing list, or however you keep in touch, because I highly, highly, highly recommend. You'll have a wonderful time. Everybody, anybody here from the retreat? I know. Yeah? Did you have a good time? Yeah. It can't be expressed through words. Yeah. Okay, I'm just aware of time. People are waiting for you with prasad outside. So we can talk after the official closing if necessary. Om Shanti.